Admiral Lee Hyun stood before the massive window in Earth's defense headquarters, watching ships move like tiny dots across the dark sky. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands were tight behind his back. The message from the Zephyrian Empire had arrived 3 hours ago. Every world in the galaxy had received the same demand: surrender or die. The conference room behind him buzzed with nervous voices. Politicians, generals, and scientists argued about what Earth should do. Most wanted to surrender immediately. They had seen what happened to worlds that refused the Empire's demands. Entire planets turned to glass and ash in minutes. Admiral Lee called President Chen from the table. The vote is clear. 47 members want to surrender. Only 3 vote to fight. We have no choice. Lee Hyun turned around slowly. His dark eyes moved across each face in the room. These people had never seen real war. They thought surrender meant safety. They were wrong. There is always a choice, Lee said quietly. And Earth will not bow. The room erupted in protests. Senator Kim stood up, his voice shaking. Admiral, they have 10,000 ships. Their weapons can crack planets. We have maybe 50 vessels that can barely reach the next star system. Lee Hyun walked to his chair but did not sit down. Instead, he placed his hands on the table and leaned forward. Senator Kim, what do you know about Project Titan? The room fell silent. Even President Chen looked confused. What project? She asked. For 15 years, while you all talked about peace and trade, my people built something in secret. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, hidden from all sensors, we created what the galaxy has never seen before. Dr. Kim Yuna entered the room carrying a small device. She was young for her position as Earth's chief weapons engineer, but her mind worked in ways that amazed even veteran scientists. She set the device on the table and pressed a button. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed a ship unlike anything the room had ever seen. Where alien vessels were smooth and curved, this one looked like a weapon made solid. Its hull was black as space itself, covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. The Indomitable, Dr. Kim said simply. Length 3 kilometers. Crew 800. Armor, quantum-layered titanium steel composite that adapts to incoming weapons. Weapons. Systems that no alien mind has imagined. Senator Kim laughed nervously. One ship? Against an empire that controls half the galaxy? Captain Park Soo stepped out from behind the hologram. He was shorter than most military officers, but something about his calm presence made everyone pay attention. His uniform was different from the others. It bore symbols that no one in the room recognized. Senator, Park Soo said, you think like them. You think numbers matter most. You think bigger means stronger. This is why humans have always surprised our enemies. President Chen leaned forward. Captain, I've never seen your rank insignia before. Because it doesn't exist yet, Admiral Lee answered. Captain Park Soo commands the first vessel of Earth's Deep Space Strike Force, a force that officially doesn't exist. Dr. Kim manipulated the hologram, showing the ship's interior. Every system on this vessel represents human innovation. While aliens built bigger guns, we built smarter ones. While they made thicker armor, we made armor that learns. While they created massive fleets, we created something they cannot understand or defeat. The room remained quiet. Finally, Senator Kim spoke again. Even if this ship is as powerful as you claim, the Empire has millions of soldiers. They have conquered species that fought for centuries. Captain Park Soo smiled for the first time. Senator, those species fought the Empire's way. They met force with force, ship with ship, weapon with weapon. They lost because they played by the Empire's rules. And we won't, asked President Chen. We don't know their rules, Admiral Lee said. We're human. We make our own. The hologram changed to show star charts. Red dots marked Empire fleets moving toward human space. There were so many red dots that the local star systems looked like they were bleeding. The Empire's 7th Fleet will reach Proxima Centauri in 6 days, Dr. Kim reported. 200 ships. They expect us to surrender when they arrive. What will actually happen? President Chen asked. Captain Park Soo studied the star chart. They will demand our surrender. I will refuse. They will attack with everything they have, and then they will learn why humans do not kneel. Captain, Senator Kim said desperately, be realistic. How can one ship fight 200? The same way one human fights a pack of wolves, Park Soo replied. By being faster, smarter, and more dangerous than they expect. Admiral Lee walked to the window again. The Indomitable launches in 2 hours. By the time the Empire realizes what they're facing, it will be too late. Dr. Kim shut off the hologram. The other projects will be ready soon. 3 more ships, each designed for different missions. But the Indomitable goes first. Why? Asked President Chen. Because someone has to knock on their door, Captain Park Soo said. Someone has to show the galaxy that the Empire can bleed. The meeting ended with most members still unconvinced. They filed out slowly, whispering to each other about impossible odds and certain death. Only Admiral Lee, Dr. Kim, and Captain Park remained. Are you ready? Admiral Lee asked his captain. Park Soo nodded. The crew is eager. They've trained for this moment their entire careers. Remember, Captain, this isn't just about winning battles. Every species in the galaxy is watching. Every oppressed world is hoping. Show them what humans can do. 2 hours later, Captain Park Soo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as it powered up for the first time. The ship's quantum drives hummed with energy that made the hull vibrate. His crew worked at stations that looked nothing like the simple controls on other human ships. All systems ready? Captain, reported Commander Choi Minho from the tactical station. Course laid in for Proxima Centauri, added Lieutenant Nam Ji-won from navigation. Park Soo settled into his command chair. Through the view screen, he could see Earth growing smaller as they accelerated. Soon they would face an enemy that had conquered countless worlds. Soon they would show the galaxy that humanity's time had come. Take us to war, he ordered quietly. The Indomitable leaped forward, carrying Earth's hopes into the darkness between stars. Behind them, the planet continued to spin peacefully, unaware that its children were about to change the galaxy forever. The Proxima Centauri system had been quiet for 3 days when the Imperial 7th Fleet arrived. 200 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver and blue under the distant star's light. Each vessel stretched over 1 kilometer long, bristling with plasma cannons and photon torpedo tubes that had reduced planets to rubble. Fleet Admiral Cax Thule stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. His scaled skin was deep purple, marking him as nobility among the Zephyrian race. His forearms moved gracefully as he studied the tactical displays showing the system's planets and moons. Status report, Cax Thule commanded in the harsh Zephyrian language. System appears empty. Admiral, replied his tactical officer. No large ships detected. Some mining stations on the outer worlds, but they're not responding to our signals. Cax Thule's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Another easy victory. The humans will surrender as quickly as the others. On the bridge of the Indomitable, hidden behind one of Proxima's moons, Captain Park Soo watched the Empire fleet through sensors that the aliens couldn't detect. His ship's stealth systems bent light and energy around them like water around a stone. 200 ship, reported Ensign Odejo from the sensor station. Standard Imperial formation. They're spreading out to cover the system. Any sign they've detected us? Park Soo asked calmly. Nothing, Captain. Our quantum stealth is working perfectly. Lieutenant Nam Ji-won looked up from her communication station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's the standard Imperial surrender demand. Park Soo nodded. Put it through. The view screen flickered and showed Admiral Cax Thule's alien face. His voice came through the universal translator, sounding cold and mechanical. Primitive humans of the Sol system, Cax Thule began. I am Fleet Admiral Cax Thule of the glorious Zephyrian Empire. Your pathetic species has been chosen for integration into our divine realm. You will surrender all military vessels immediately and prepare your worlds for Imperial occupation. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your star system. The transmission showed images of other worlds that had refused surrender. Cities melted under orbital bombardment. Oceans boiled away. Entire continents turned to glass. The message was clear. Submit or die. Park Soo stood up from his command chair. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. He walked to the communication console and picked up the transmitter. Lieutenant Nam, open a channel to the Imperial flagship. Channel open. Captain? Park Soo's voice was quiet but carried clearly across space. Admiral Cax Thule, this is Captain Park Soo of the Earth vessel Indomitable. I have received your surrender demand. On the Eternal Glory, Cax Thule's officers looked surprised. They had expected groveling pleas for mercy, not this calm response. Captain Park, Cax Thule replied. You will order all human ships to power down their weapons and prepare for boarding. Any delay will be considered an act of war. There was a long pause. When Park Soo spoke again, his voice was even quieter than before. No. The single word hung in space between the two fleets. Caxthul's mandibles twitched in confusion. What did you say? No, Park Soo repeated. Earth does not surrender. Earth does not kneel. And Earth's children do not run from bullies. Caxthul's purple skin darkened with rage. You dare refuse the Empire? Your single primitive vessel against my entire fleet? That's exactly what I'm doing, Park Soo confirmed. Then you will die first, human. All weapons target the source of that transmission. Fire when ready. The Imperial fleet opened fire as one. 200 ships unleashed their full firepower at the moon where the Indomitable was hiding. Plasma beams that could melt through starship hulls struck first. Photon torpedoes followed, each one carrying enough energy to level a city. The moon's surface exploded in fire and radiation. Target destroyed, Admiral, reported the Imperial tactical officer. Caxthul smiled with satisfaction. Record this for transmission to all human worlds. Let them see what happens to those who, Admiral, the sensor officer shouted. Contact! Large vessel emerging from behind the moon. The Indomitable rose from the flames like a black ghost. The Imperial weapons had struck nothing but rock and ice. The human ship had moved at the last second, using the moon's destruction as cover. Impossible, Caxthul whispered. Our sensors showed direct hits. On the Indomitable's bridge, Commander Choi Minho smiled grimly. Quantum displacement field worked perfectly, Captain. They hit our afterimage. All weapons ready, reported the weapons officer. Captain Park Soo settled back into his command chair. Dr. Kim, you may begin the demonstration. The Indomitable's hull opened in dozens of places. What emerged looked nothing like Imperial weapons. Instead of energy beams or explosive missiles, the human ship launched simple metal rods. Each rod was 3 meters long and made of depleted uranium. They looked harmless compared to the Empire's flashy plasma cannons. They're firing metal sticks at us, laughed the Imperial tactical officer. These humans are even more primitive than we thought. The laughter died when the rod struck. Moving at 15% of light speed, each uranium rod carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear bomb. The first Imperial ship simply vanished, torn apart at the molecular level. The second ship's shields flared and died as the rod punched through them like paper. The third ship tried to dodge, but nothing could move fast enough to avoid a projectile traveling that fast. In 30 seconds, 20 Imperial ships became clouds of glowing debris. What are those weapons? Caxthul screamed at his officers. Kinetic projectiles, Admiral, moving at impossible speeds. Our shields can't stop them. All ships evasive maneuvers. Return fire! The Imperial fleet scattered, trying to avoid the invisible death coming from the human ship. Their own weapons struck the Indomitable again and again, but something was wrong. The energy beams simply disappeared when they hit the black hull. The photon torpedoes exploded harmlessly against what looked like empty space. Their armor is absorbing our weapons, reported the sensor officer. Every hit makes their hull stronger. Dr. Kim Yuna had designed the Indomitable's quantum-layered armor to learn from each attack. Every energy beam taught it how to absorb that frequency better. Every explosion showed it how to disperse kinetic force more efficiently. The more the Empire attacked, the more invulnerable the human ship became. Captain Park Soo watched calmly as his ship tore through the Imperial formation. Lieutenant Nam, open a channel to all Empire ships. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Park Soo, he announced. Any Imperial vessel that wishes to surrender may withdraw from this system immediately. Those who remain will share the fate of their admiral. Half the Imperial fleet immediately turned and fled. They had no desire to face whatever devil the humans had unleashed. The other half, too proud or too frightened of their commanders to retreat, continued fighting. It made no difference. The Indomitable moved through the Imperial formation like a shark among small fish. Its railguns fired continuously, each shot destroying another enemy vessel. Its quantum armor adapted to every new weapon the aliens tried. Within an hour, only debris remained where the mighty 7th Fleet had been. Admiral Caxthul's flagship drifted powerless in space, its engines destroyed and its weapons offline. Park Soo could have finished it easily, but instead he opened one final communication channel. Admiral Caxthul, he said quietly, return to your empire. Tell them what you saw here. Tell them that humanity has awakened. The Eternal Glory limped away on emergency power, carrying news that would shake the Empire to its core. Behind them, the Indomitable hung in space like a silent promise. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's children were not the weak primitives they had seemed. The war for galactic freedom had begun. The throne room of Zephyros Prime had not seen such chaos in 1,000 years. Emperor Vexenor sat on his crystal throne, his massive form radiating the cold fury that had crushed 100 rebellions. His scaled hide had turned from purple to almost black, a sign of rage that made his courtiers step back in fear. Admiral Caxthul knelt before the throne, his once proud uniform torn and stained. Half of his face was scarred from the destruction of his flagship's bridge. Behind him stood General Roth Dacus, the Empire's greatest military mind. His forearms crossed as he studied tactical displays showing the disaster at Proxima Centauri. "One ship," Emperor Vexenor said slowly, his voice like grinding stone. "One primitive human vessel destroyed the entire 7th Fleet." "Your Magnificence," Caxthul began. "Their technology is unlike anything we've encountered. Their weapons ignore our shields. Their armor absorbs our firepower. They move like shadows and strike like lightning." The Emperor's claws carved deep grooves in the crystal armrest. "Are you telling me that these humans have discovered something that our scientists with 10,000 years of advancement cannot understand?" General Dacus stepped forward. "Emperor, I've studied the battle recordings from Admiral Caxthul's flagship. The humans aren't using energy weapons at all. They're firing metal projectiles at incredible speeds. It's so primitive that our shields aren't designed to stop it." "Primitive?" Vexenor's voice rose to a roar. "Primitive weapons don't destroy Imperial fleets." "With respect, Your Magnificence," Dacus continued carefully, "sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. While we perfected plasma and photon weapons, humans apparently focused on kinetic energy. Their ship fires what amounts to bullets, but bullets moving at a significant fraction of light speed. In the space around Proxima Centauri, the Indomitable prowled like a hunting beast." Captain Park Su stood in his ready room, studying reports from Earth. 3 more ships were nearly complete, but they wouldn't be ready for months. Until then, he had to keep the Empire's attention focused on him. Chief Engineer Yang Junho entered with a status report. "Captain, the quantum armor performed better than expected. It's already adapted to 90% of the Empire's known weapon frequencies. Dr. Kim's design is learning faster than we hoped." "And our weapons?" Park Su asked. "Railguns are operating at full efficiency. We have enough ammunition for perhaps 50 more engagements like the last one. After that," Yang shrugged. Park Su nodded. 50 battles sounded like a lot, but he suspected the Empire was about to send much more than 200 ships next time. His thoughts were interrupted by Lieutenant Nam Jiwan's voice over the intercom. "Captain, to the bridge. We're detecting massive hyperspace signatures." On the bridge, the main screen showed space distorting as ships dropped out of hyperspace. But this wasn't a fleet, it was an armada. Hundreds of ships appeared, then thousands. The space around Proxima Centauri filled with Imperial vessels until the stars themselves were blocked from view. "How many?" Park Su asked calmly. Ensign Odeho's voice was barely steady. 3,812 vessels, Captain. 3 complete battle groups. This is the largest Imperial force ever assembled." On the bridge of the Super Dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, General Dacus studied his own displays. He had convinced Emperor Vexenor to let him handle the human problem personally. Unlike Caxthul, Dacus understood that the humans had to be taken seriously. "All fleet commanders report readiness," Dacus ordered. One by one, his subordinates confirmed their status. Battle Group 7, commanded by Admiral Thexnell. Battle Group 12 under Admiral Yorgoth. Battle Group 23 led by Admiral Kilvex. Each group contained over 1,000 ships. Each had conquered entire star systems. "General," reported his tactical officer, "the human vessel has been located. It's hiding in the asteroid field near the 4th planet." Dacus studied the sensor readings. The human ship was barely 3 kilometers long, smaller than most Imperial cruisers. Yet this tiny vessel had humiliated the Empire's finest fleet. "All ships maintain maximum range," Dacus ordered. "Do not close to within 50,000 kilometers. We will destroy them with concentrated fire from distance." The Imperial Armada spread out across the star system, forming a sphere around the Indomitable's position. On Dacus's command, every ship opened fire simultaneously. The space around the asteroid field lit up like a new sun, as thousands of energy beams converged on the human vessel. Captain Park Soo watched the incoming fire on his tactical display. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The Empire had learned from their first defeat and was taking no chances. All power to quantum armor, he ordered. Engineering, give me everything the reactors can handle. Captain, Commander Choi Minho called out. Armor is absorbing the energy, but there's too much incoming fire. We're at 95% capacity and rising. The Indomitable shuddered as energy beams struck from every direction. Its black hull began to glow as the quantum armor struggled to absorb the massive bombardment. Sparks flew from overloaded systems on the bridge. Armor at 100%, Choi reported. We can't take much more. Park Soo made his decision. All power to engines. Yang, prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. Captain, Yang's voice came through the intercom. The quantum drive isn't designed for combat jumps. If we make a mistake, if we stay here, we die for certain, Park Soo replied. I'll take uncertain odds over certain death. The Indomitable suddenly accelerated, moving faster than any ship its size should have been able to. It shot through the Imperial formation like a black arrow, its railguns firing continuously. 12 Imperial ships exploded. Before they could react to the human vessels, movement, hyperspace, jump in 10 seconds, reported the navigation. Officer General Dacus watched in disbelief as the human ship prepared to escape. All ships intercept! Don't let them jump. But it was too late. Space twisted around the Indomitable as it vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only debris from destroyed Imperial vessels. On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, Dacus stared at empty space where the human ship had been. His tactical officer reported the damage. 12 ships destroyed, 37 more damaged, all by a single vessel that had been trapped and outnumbered. General, his communications officer said quietly, Emperor Vexnor is requesting an immediate report. Dacus closed his eyes. How could he explain that 3 battle groups, the largest force in Imperial history, had failed to destroy one human ship? For the next 3 months, the Indomitable became a ghost story throughout the Empire. It would appear without warning at Imperial supply bases, destroying everything before vanishing again. It hit communication relays, leaving entire sectors cut off from Central Command. It attacked convoys carrying weapons and supplies to the front lines. Each engagement revealed new horrors about human technology. Their ship could jump directly into hyperspace from any location, something Imperial vessels needed special gates to accomplish. Their weapons had unlimited range in space, striking targets from distances that made retaliation impossible. Their sensors could detect Imperial ships before Imperial sensors detected them. Worse than the tactical defeats was the effect on Imperial morale. Stories spread through the fleet about the demon ship that could not be killed. Entire squadrons began retreating at the first sign of energy signatures that might indicate human presence. Emperor Vexnor summoned General Dacus again after the loss of the Kepler supply depot. This time the throne room was empty except for the Emperor himself. 3 months, General, Vexnor said quietly. 3 months and 1 human ship has made the Empire look weak throughout the galaxy. Your Magnificence, Dacus replied. We need a new approach. Conventional tactics won't work against human technology. Then suggest something unconventional. Dacus took a breath. The Starkiller device. We deploy it in a human system and threaten to destroy their sun unless they surrender. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. The Starkiller was the Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of causing stars to go supernova. It had only been used once to destroy a system whose inhabitants had committed the ultimate sin of killing an Imperial prince. And if they still refuse to surrender? Vexnor asked. Then we carry out the threat. No species can survive the loss of their home star. The Emperor's claws drummed against his throne. Very well. Deploy the Starkiller to the Sol system. But Dacus, yes, Your Magnificence? If this fails, you will join Admiral Caxthul in the execution chambers. As General Dacus bowed and left the throne room, Emperor Vexnor stared at the tactical displays showing the damage one human ship had inflicted. Soon he would discover that the Indomitable was not alone in the darkness between stars. Soon he would learn that humanity had been preparing for this war long before the Empire knew humans existed. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Lee Hyun stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching displays that showed the movement of ships across half the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the Indomitable first engaged the Empire. 6 months of hit-and-run attacks that had made the Imperial fleet paranoid and desperate. Now it was time for the next phase. Dr. Song Wubin, Lee called to the young physicist working at a console covered in quantum equations. Status on the communication network? Song looked up from his calculations, his eyes bright with excitement. Admiral, the quantum entanglement links are stable across all 4 ships. Real-time communication over galactic distances is now possible. Captain Park Soo can coordinate with the other vessels instantly, no matter how far apart they are. Lee nodded with satisfaction. Human science had achieved something the Empire thought impossible. Faster-than-light communication that couldn't be intercepted or jammed. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Park Soo received the coded signal he had been waiting for. The time for hiding was over. The time for hunting had begun. Lieutenant Nam, he said calmly, send activation codes to Relentless, Unstoppable, and Inevitable. Tell them the pack is ready to hunt. In the Altair system, Commander Beggina smiled as she received Park Soo's message. Her ship, the Relentless, had been waiting in this dead system for 2 months. Unlike the Indomitable's black hull, the Relentless was silver and seemed to shift and blur when you looked at it directly. All stations, this is the captain, Beck announced to her crew. Project Ghost is now active. Take us to full stealth mode. The Relentless simply vanished, not into hyperspace but from normal space itself. Human scientists had discovered how to bend light, gravity, and even time around their vessel. To any observer, the ship simply stopped existing. In the Vega system, Captain Lee Dong-yun received the same message aboard the Unstoppable. His ship looked different again. Its hull was covered in what appeared to be growing metal that shifted and changed pattern constantly. Dr. Kim's adaptive armor technology had been taken to its logical extreme. Weapon status? Dong-yun asked his tactical officer. All systems operational, Captain. The adaptive plasma cannons are ready for field testing. Excellent. Let's show the Empire what happens when human weapons learn to think. The 4th ship, the Inevitable, was commanded by Captain Yoon Seokjin in the Rigel system. This vessel looked the most alien of all human ships. Its hull seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, occasionally becoming transparent to reveal systems that operated according to no known physics. General Dacus stood on the bridge of his flagship as it approached the Sol system with the Starkiller device. He had spent weeks planning humanity's destruction, but something felt wrong. Imperial intelligence reported only mining stations and orbital platforms around Earth. Where was their fleet? Where were their defenses? General, his sensor officer reported, we're detecting 4 large contacts on the edge of the system. They appear to be human vessels. Dacus studied the tactical display. 4 ships against his battle group of 300. It seemed like suicide, but he had learned not to underestimate human stupidity or human cunning. All ships, battle formation. Maintain maximum range until we understand what we're facing. The first surprise came when the Relentless opened fire from 2 light minutes away. Imperial sensors showed empty space, but energy beams suddenly began striking Dacus's ships with perfect accuracy. The invisible vessel was shooting them, and they couldn't shoot back at what they couldn't see. How are they targeting us? Dacus demanded. Unknown, General. Our sensors show no enemy vessels in that direction. The second surprise came from the Unstoppable. As Imperial ships fired at it, their energy beams simply stopped. The ship's adaptive armor didn't just absorb the energy, it converted the attacks into its own weapon systems. Plasma cannons that had been shooting at the human vessel suddenly turned and began firing at other Imperial ships. Our own weapons are attacking us, screamed the tactical officer. But the worst surprise came from the Inevitable. As Imperial vessels tried to surround it, they discovered that the human ship existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Sensors showed it in 5 different places at once, and all 5 versions were shooting back. Captain Park Soo watched the battle from the Indomitable with grim satisfaction. Each human ship represented a different approach to warfare, but all shared the same core philosophy. Don't fight the enemy's war. Force them to fight yours. Open communication to all human vessels, he ordered. Channel open. Captain, Lieutenant Nam confirmed. All ships. This is Park Soo. Begin Operation Nightfall. Across the Sol system, the 4 human dreadnoughts began to move in perfect coordination. Thanks to Dr. Song's quantum communication network, they could react to each other's actions instantly, fighting as a single organism with 4 bodies. The Relentless vanished completely from sensors and began moving through the Imperial formation like a ghost. destroying ships that never saw death coming. The Unstoppable turned the enemy's own firepower against them, creating chaos as Imperial vessels were destroyed by their own weapons. The Inevitable existed in multiple dimensions, attacking from directions that didn't exist in normal space. And the Indomitable moved through the center of the enemy formation, its railguns firing continuously, each shot precisely calculated to cause maximum psychological as well as physical damage. General Dacus watched his 300-ship battle group dissolve into panic and confusion. His vessels were shooting at shadows, being destroyed by invisible enemies and having their own weapons turned against them. In 1 hour, he lost half his fleet to 4 human ships. "General," his communications officer said urgently, "we're receiving reports from across the Empire. Human vessels are attacking our bases in 12 different sectors simultaneously." Dacus stared at the tactical display. "Impossible. There are only 4 human ships." "Sir, the reports are confirmed. Kepler Station is under attack by an invisible vessel. The Rigel shipyards are being destroyed by a ship that our weapons can't hurt. The Altair supply depot is—" The officer paused. "Sir, the reports say the ship exists in multiple places at once." For the first time in his military career, General Dacus felt genuine fear. The humans hadn't just built 4 ships. They had built 4 different types of nightmare. Each vessel represented technology that the Empire couldn't understand or counter. "All ships retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "Deploy the Starkiller device." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Park Sue received warnings from his sensor officer. "Captain, the Imperial flagship is deploying something massive. Energy readings are off the scale." Dr. Song Wubin's voice came through the quantum communication link from Earth. "Captain, we're detecting gravitational anomalies around the Imperial device. It's a star killer. They're planning to make our sun go supernova." Park Sue's expression didn't change. "All human vessels, priority Alpha target confirmed. Weapons free." The 4 human ships moved as one, converging on General Dacus's flagship. The Relentless struck first, appearing directly behind the Inevitable Conquest and firing plasma cannons at point-blank range. The Unstoppable followed, its adaptive weapons having learned to copy and improve upon every Imperial weapon system. The Inevitable attacked from multiple dimensions simultaneously, its weapons hitting the Imperial flagship in places that normal physics said didn't exist. And the Indomitable came straight down the middle, its railguns charging for a shot that would end the battle. "Shields failing," reported Dacus's tactical officer. "Hull breaches on all decks. The Starkiller device is—" The transmission cut off as the Inevitable Conquest exploded in a ball of plasma. The Starkiller device, damaged beyond repair, shut down automatically before it could destabilize the Sol system's sun. Captain Park Sue opened a communication channel to the surviving Imperial ships. "This is Captain Park Sue of the Earth Defense Force. You came here to destroy our sun and murder billions of innocent people. Your general is dead. Your device is destroyed. Leave this system immediately or join him." The remaining Imperial vessels fled without firing another shot. On Earth, Admiral Lee Hyun smiled as he watched the enemy retreat. Phase 2 was complete. The Empire now knew that humanity had multiple ships and technology they couldn't understand. More importantly, every species in the galaxy had received transmissions showing Imperial forces fleeing from human vessels. "Dr. Song," Lee said, "begin broadcasting those battle recordings to every world in the Empire. Let them see that their masters can be defeated." "Yes, Admiral. The Liberation broadcast is transmitting now." Throughout the galaxy, oppressed species watched in amazement as human ships made the mighty Imperial fleet run like frightened children. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had lived under Imperial rule for generations began to whisper a word they hadn't dared speak in centuries: freedom. The Galactic Empire was about to discover that when you threaten to destroy someone's home, they stop fighting defensively. Captain Park Sue and his fellow captains were no longer just defending Earth. They were coming for the Empire itself. Emperor Vexnor stood alone in his throne room, staring at reports that made no sense. In 6 months, the human vessels had destroyed over 2,000 Imperial ships. They had liberated 47 star systems. Worse, species that had been loyal Imperial subjects for centuries were now openly rebelling. The massive doors opened and High Priestess Lix-Ara entered, her robes flowing behind her. Unlike the Emperor's dark scales, her skin was pale silver, marking her as a member of the religious caste. She had been silent during the Empire's expansion wars, but now her voice carried the weight of ancient authority. "Emperor," she said formally, "the Council of Elders demands an audience." "The Council has no authority over military matters," Vexnor replied without turning around. "They do when those military matters threaten the survival of our species," Lixara answered.
"Half our fleet is destroyed."
"Our client species are in revolt. The humans are coming here to Zephyros Prime itself." Vexnor finally turned to face her. "4 ships, priestess. 4 ships have done this to an empire that spans half the galaxy. It cannot be real. The evidence is real. The casualties are real. The fear in our people's hearts is real." Lixara moved closer to the throne. "Emperor, it is time to consider what was once unthinkable. You speak of surrender. I speak of survival." In the space around Zephyros Prime, the greatest fortress in Imperial history waited. The planet was surrounded by 12 orbital defense platforms, each one larger than a city. Energy shields covered the entire world in overlapping layers. The remaining Imperial fleet, nearly 3,000 ships, formed defensive rings around their capital. Admiral Jiang Somi stood on the bridge of her flagship, studying the enemy defenses through long-range sensors. She commanded the combined human fleet, all 4 dreadnoughts working together for the first time. Around her, the most experienced captains in human space prepared for the battle that would decide the war. "Tactical assessment. Captain Park," she asked. Park Su studied the displays showing Zephyros Prime's defenses. 12 major platforms, each with firepower equivalent to a battle group. Planetary shield generators that can withstand sustained bombardment for weeks. Fleet strength approximately 3,000 vessels, including their remaining super dreadnoughts. "In other words," added Captain Beck Gina from the Relentless, "they've made their homeworld into the ultimate fortress." "Good," said Captain Li Dongyan from the Unstoppable. "Fortresses are traps as much as they are shields. Once we crack them open, everything inside becomes vulnerable." Captain Yoon Seok-jin's voice came through quantum communication from the Inevitable. "My ship's dimensional sensors are detecting something else. They have a massive energy source deep underground, much larger than anything we've seen before." Admiral Jiang studied the sensor readings. "Another Starkiller device?" "Bigger," Yoon confirmed. "This could destroy multiple star systems." Park Su's expression hardened. "They're planning to take everyone with them if they lose. Typical Imperial thinking. If they can't rule, no one can live." Emperor Vexnor made his decision in the command bunker beneath his palace. If the humans wanted his capital, they would pay a price that would make the galaxy remember Imperial power forever. "Activate the Nova Protocol," he ordered his surviving generals. "If we cannot stop them, we will take them with us into death." Deep beneath Zephyros Prime, machines that had taken decades to build began powering up. The Nova Protocol was the Empire's final weapon, a device that could cause their own sun to explode, destroying everything within 3 light years. It was madness, but Vexnor preferred madness to defeat. On the surface of the planet, High Priestess Lixara felt the ground shake as the underground machinery activated. She knew what the Emperor had chosen. In desperation, she activated her own hidden communication system and sent a message toward the approaching human fleet. "Human commanders," her transmission began. "This is High Priestess Lixara of Zephyros Prime. Emperor Vexnor has activated a device that will destroy this entire star system rather than allow our surrender. You have perhaps 6 hours before the process becomes irreversible." Admiral Jiang received the message as the human fleet approached the outer defense platforms. "Is she telling the truth?" she asked her science officers. Dr. Song Wubin's voice came through quantum communication from Earth. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy buildup in the Zephyrian sun. They're destabilizing the star's core. At current rate of change, the sun will go supernova in approximately 5 hours." Park Su studied the tactical situation. 5 hours to break through defenses that were designed to hold off entire fleets. And we have to capture the Nova device intact. If we destroy it, the explosion might trigger early. "Can we do it?" asked Admiral Jiang. "Yes," Park Su replied without hesitation, "but not the way they expect." The human attack began unlike any battle in galactic history. Instead of approaching the orbital platforms directly, the 4 ships took positions at impossible ranges. Distances where Imperial weapons couldn't reach but human railguns could strike with pinpoint accuracy. The Indomitable fired first. its uranium projectiles crossing the space between ships at 15% of light speed. The first defense platform exploded before its crew realized they were under attack. The second platform tried to return fire, but its energy beams dissipated harmlessly across the vast distance. The Relentless simply vanished from sensors and reappeared inside the defensive perimeter, its stealth systems having fooled every Imperial detector. It began destroying platforms from point-blank range, while remaining completely invisible to targeting systems. The Unstoppable positioned itself where the orbital platform's own weapons could reach it, then used its adaptive armor to turn their firepower against other platforms. Imperial commanders watched in horror as their own defenses began destroying each other. The inevitable took the most audacious approach of all. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, attacking platforms that thought they were safely hidden behind other defenses. Space itself seemed to bend around the human vessel as it fired from directions that shouldn't exist. In 2 hours, all 12 orbital platforms were destroyed or disabled. The planetary shields flickered and died as their generators overloaded. The remaining Imperial fleet found itself caught between the planet's gravity well and 4 human ships that fought like nothing they had ever imagined. Emperor Vexnor watched his defenses crumble from his command bunker. "How much time until Nova activation?" he demanded. 3 hours, Your Magnificence," replied his chief scientist. "But the humans are breaking through faster than predicted. Then we accelerate the process. Trigger Nova protocol immediately." "Emperor, that will kill everyone on the planet, including us. Better death with honor than life under human rule." But as Vexnor reached for the activation control, the bunker's blast doors exploded inward. High Priestess Lixara stood in the smoking entrance, flanked by Imperial guards who had chosen to follow her instead of their emperor. "Stand down." "Vexnor," she commanded, using his name without title for the first time in centuries. "The Council of Elders has voted. You are no longer emperor." "Traitor!" Vexnor snarled, drawing his ceremonial weapon. "Patriot," Lixara corrected. "I choose to save our people rather than destroy them for your pride." The brief fight that followed ended with Emperor Vexnor dead and High Priestess Lixara holding the Nova protocol controls. She began the shutdown sequence just as Captain Park Su's voice echoed through the bunker's communication system. "This is Captain Park Su of the Earth vessel Indomitable. I am receiving surrender signals from the surface. High Priestess Lixara, please respond." Lixara activated the communication system. "Captain Park, this is High Priestess Lixara. Emperor Vexnor is dead. I am shutting down the Nova device. The Zephyrian Empire surrenders unconditionally." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Park Su looked around at his crew. They had done something that seemed impossible 6 months ago. They had brought the galaxy's greatest empire to its knees. "Lieutenant Nam, open a channel to all human vessels and Earth Command." "Channel open, Captain." "Admiral Li Hyun, Admiral Jang Somi, this is Captain Park Su. Zephyros Prime has surrendered. The war is over." Throughout the galaxy, beings who had lived under Imperial oppression for generations watched the impossible happen. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, had been defeated by a species that most of them had never heard of 6 months ago. In the orbital shipyards around Earth, work crews were already beginning construction on new vessels, not weapons of war but ships of exploration and trade. The galaxy was about to enter a new age, and humanity intended to help guide it towards something better than empire. Captain Park Su remained on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the surrendered Imperial fleet. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Building peace was harder than winning wars. But today, the galaxy was free, and that was enough. The age of the Galactic Empire was over. The age of the Galactic Republic was about to begin,